My own family texted me saying they needed distance from me and that I should stop contacting them completely. The message flashed across my screen like a warning flare, and I just stood in my small apartment, letting the silence feel heavier than any argument we ever had. And instead of begging, instead of falling apart, I typed back the calmest line I have ever written. They had no idea what that moment was going to cost them. Before I tell you the rest, hit like and drop your city so I know who is listening from the other side of this chaos. My name is Mara Whitfield, and for most of my life, I have been the person everyone handed their problems to. The way someone hands off an extra coat without thinking, or asking if I could handle the weight. I work in payroll at a medical facility downtown, a job built on order and precision, two things I have clung to for years. My apartment shows it. Soft lamps, clean counters, receipts organized by color in a drawer that sticks when the air gets humid. Nothing fancy, just stable. And in my family, stability always meant one thing. I paid. My mother, Lorraine, loves to say, "Family helps family." She usually says it while standing near the sink, towel in hand, doing that thing where she sighs instead of finishing her sentences. My father, Raymond, prefers a more pointed approach. Long talks about loyalty and duty, and how he didn't raise me to nickel and dime blood. If his voice tightened, it meant I was expected to cover whatever bill was floating in the background. And then there is my sister Neve, 3 years younger and somehow louder by a lifetime. Growing up, she knew how to pull the attention to herself. New jackets, new hair, new drama. She calls me banker lady, half joke, half insult, fully useful when she needs a security deposit or a car payment refill. And anytime I said no, the family chorus jumped in, telling me not to be dramatic, reminding me that she couldn't handle things alone, insisting that I was the responsible one. Even the extended family joined in. Our group chat was always full of pictures, memes, jokes, complaints, until money came up. Then, suddenly, every message turned sharp, listing everything my parents gave me, saying Neve deserved a break, telling me not to make things awkward. None of them knew my budget. None of them knew the tight knots I tied myself into every month to keep everyone else afloat. In all that noise, the only person who never took advantage of me was my Uncle Glenn. He runs a small moving service across the city, the kind of job that gives you strong hands and a quiet read on people. He never asked for anything, never hinted, never pushed. He just watched. I had no idea how important that would become later. For years, I convinced myself this was normal. Every family has roles, and mine just happened to make me the one who covered the emergencies, the shortfalls, the "I'll pay you back next" weeks that never came. I told myself it wasn't personal. But every time I opened my banking app, every time I shrank my own plans so theirs could grow, something inside me pulled tighter. And then came the night everything tipped. And then came the night everything tipped. The days leading up to that moment felt strange in a way I could not name at the time. Small shifts, little stings, tiny moments that should have rolled off me, but instead stayed beneath my skin like grit. It started with Neve, as it always did. She showed up at my parents' place wearing a brand new coat, the tags still folded inside the fabric, and immediately started talking about the safer apartment she wanted across the city. She did not look at me when she brought it up. She never had to. "You will cover the deposit, right?" she asked while scrolling through her phone, her voice casual, like she was ordering lunch. I told her no. Not loud, not emotional, just a steady no. I had practiced in the bathroom mirror for weeks. My mother, Lorraine, froze with a dish in her hand. My father, Raymond, inhaled slowly, the way he always did when preparing to be disappointed. That was all it took. The room shifted, the mood flipped, and suddenly I was the selfish one again. Neve rolled her eyes, giving me that smile that always felt like a private joke I was never in on. "It is not that deep, banker lady," she said. I left early that night. When I sat in my car with the heater humming, I could not understand why setting a boundary felt like committing a crime. But the real blow came 2 days later when my office phone rang. I answered with my work voice, steady, clipped, professional, only to hear my parents' landlord cheerfully confirm the renewal of their automatic deposit agreement. My deposit agreement. He thanked me for removing a late fee I did not know existed. Then he continued explaining how my parents gave him my work email and even my schedule so he could reach me easily. I stared at the bland canvas art on the wall as heat crept up my neck. They had not only used my money, they had stepped into my professional world, handing out my information like party favors. I never thought I needed to protect my privacy from my own family, but suddenly it felt like I had none at all. That evening, I drove straight to their building. The hallway smelled like cleaning solution and old takeout. I sat them down on the sagging couch I had bought and said the words I had swallowed for years. I deserve to know what I am paying for. Lorraine tightened her jaw. We feel attacked, she said. Raymond crossed his arms. Take that tone with your coworkers, not with us. Neve laughed from the hallway. Should we tip you now or later? She said. It was not a fight. It was not loud. It was worse. It was casual cruelty delivered with the ease of habit. I walked out mid-sentence, unable to force myself to finish. The next afternoon, the group chat lit up. Their message sat there sharp and cold. We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely. I stared at the screen, letting the clarity settle in. If this was the distance they wanted, I would honor it. The minutes after that message felt suspended, like the air thickened around me, holding me still long enough to understand what had just happened. My family had not asked for space. They had issued a verdict, a clean, sharp exile, without question or explanation. Their silence spread almost instantly, bright and echoing and final. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the message until my screen dimmed. No anger, just a cold, steady clarity I had never felt before. If this was the distance they wanted, I could give it to them. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a call I did not expect. My Uncle Glenn. He never called unless there was a reason. When I answered, his voice was steady and cautious. I'm at your parents' place, he said. They asked me to help pack. For a second, I thought I misheard. Pack? What? I asked. Everything, he replied. Clothes, dishes, photos. They are moving out. I closed my eyes. Of course they were. They were not just cutting me off, they were disappearing, physically, uprooting themselves, leaving me behind like a bill they no longer wanted to carry. Glenn paused before adding, I will make sure anything with your name on it gets returned. Don't worry. He was not taking sides. He was just telling the truth. And that truth, him standing in their living room, boxing up their life, hit harder than the message itself. After the call, I opened the drawer where I kept all my color-coded receipts from the last 7 years. Rent, utilities, transportation, medical bills, groceries, subscriptions, all the invisible threads I had used to hold their life together month after month. I told myself I kept the records for organization, for sanity, but laid out on the floor, they looked like a map of every place I had abandoned myself to keep them stable. I spread them across the hardwood. Green for housing, yellow for utilities, blue for transportation, red for medical, purple for everything miscellaneous. The paper curled at the edges like it was exhausted too. I sat on the floor, knees pulled close, and for the first time let myself see everything. This was not support. This was not love. This was dependency, wrapped in the language of duty. I had been the structure holding up a house that never had room for me. The thought did not break me. It freed me. That night, my friend Elias came over. He knocked softly once and let himself in, the way someone does when they care enough to stay gently. They texted you, he said quietly, not even needing to ask. I slid my phone toward him. He read the message, jaw tightening, but his eyes stayed soft. You do not deserve this, he said. I did not cry. I did not collapse. I just exhaled, like someone finally loosened a strap wrapped too tightly around my chest. I'm done, I said. Elias sat beside me, surrounded by the piles of color-coded receipts. Then, let's start with one thing, he said. Show me what you have been carrying. The next morning, I walked into Dr. Patel's office and told her everything. The message, the packing, the years of strain. She listened without interrupting, her expression warm but steady. Then she said something that felt like it unlocked a door in my chest. Ending a financial entanglement is not abandonment. It is self-preservation. That single sentence felt like permission. Permission I had never known I was waiting for. When I left her office, my mind was clearer. My hands did not shake. I finally knew what needed to happen next. I did not send my family anything that night. I put my phone on silent, face down, the way you do when you are finally done letting it rule you. But the next morning, the group chat was a storm. The screen lit up with missed messages stacked like dominoes, ready to fall. Neve messaged first, of course. "Where are you? Why are you not answering?" Then my mother, saying I was being dramatic again. Then the final line. "Fine, we will do everything without you." If they wanted to cut me off, why were they demanding my attention? I scrolled back to the message they had sent, the one that had changed everything. "We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely." It still felt unreal, clean and sharp like a paper cut. But now I had clarity, something they had never expected. I walked to my small kitchen table, laid out the color-coded receipts, and took photos, one for each category: housing, utilities, medical, transportation, subscriptions, everything. They were neat, calm, factual proof of the years I spent holding everything together. My fingers did not tremble the way they used to. Then I opened the family group chat. My message appeared as a single, clear block of text. "I am honoring your request for distance. Here is a summary of the payments I have been covering. All of these will end on the dates shown. Please transfer the accounts and leases into your own names within 30 days. I attached every photo, one after another, then added one last line. "I will cancel my direct deposits today." For almost 2 minutes, there was nothing. No response, no movement. Then the panic arrived. "Mom, Maeve, what does this mean?" "Dad, money is not the same as family. Do not weaponize it." "Neve, you are sick for doing this. You are trying to humiliate us." Then came aunts, cousins, spouses, a cloud of typing dots filling the screen like insects. "Mom, again, we meant distance from your attitude, not from you." I typed back. "Your message said stop contacting us completely. I am honoring what you asked." My father sent a long message with no breaks, all anger and hurt. "After everything we did for you, this is what we get? We trusted you with our bills because we thought you understood family." I did not reply. I had heard variations of that guilt trip too many times. Neve changed tactics. "I cannot afford to move. I will end up somewhere unsafe. Are you happy if something happens to me?" I stared at her words, calm and steady. That was the same emotional trap they always used. "I hope you stay safe," I wrote, "but I am not responsible for your lifestyle anymore." Silence. Then the calls started. Mom calling, Dad calling, Neve calling. Ring after ring, until I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. They wanted a reaction. They were not going to get one. An hour later, a new message appeared, not in the group chat, but privately. It was from Glenn. "I am dropping off a few boxes tonight," he wrote. "Stuff that belongs to you." They did not open them. I paused at those words. "Belongs to you." When Glenn arrived that evening, he stood in my doorway holding 3 neatly stacked boxes. His jacket was dusty from moving furniture all day. "They tried to rush me," he said, "told me not to bother with anything that was not theirs, but I saw your name on a few things." He set the boxes down gently, as if they were fragile, even though the cardboard was sturdy. Inside were unopened kitchen towels, a blender still in its packaging, a router still sealed, all things I had bought for them over the years. Attempts to make their life easier, pushed aside, forgotten, left untouched. Glenn watched me quietly as I lifted each item. "You did so much more for them than they ever admitted," he said. "Do not let them twist what happened." Something twisted in my chest anyway. Not pain exactly, but grief. Grief not for losing them, but for finally seeing the truth without excuses or obligations covering it. After Glenn left, the group chat exploded again. "Mom, how could you let Glenn see our private matters? Dad, we will never forgive this humiliation. Neve, I hope you are happy. You ruined everything." I typed nothing. I set my phone on the counter and poured water into a glass. The quiet sound of it filling was steadier than any of their voices. I drank slowly, letting my breath match the pace. 10 minutes later, the tone of the messages shifted. Anger softened into pleading. Predictable as the tide returning. "Mom, please do not do this. Your father has not slept. Dad, I worked my whole life. You owe me respect. Neve, if you shut down the phone plan, how am I supposed to get to work or call for help? I responded only once. I am not discussing money anymore. Another long silence followed. Then the family pattern cracked open again. Neve, I do not understand why you are so cold. I answered, you told me not to contact you. I am doing what you asked. This time, no one replied. The quiet stretched long enough that I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the steps from the apartment upstairs, and the city traffic outside. Sounds from my own life, sounds I had not noticed in years. But the peace did not last long. Around midnight, the group chat lit up again. This time, the extended family joined in. Aunt Mira, we never expected this from you. Cousin Blake, this is too extreme. You could have handled this differently. Another cousin, family sacrifices for each other. Why can't you? I still did not reply. Instead, I uploaded one simple document: budget templates, renter's assistance resources, utility contacts, all the tools they needed to manage their own life without me. At the bottom, I wrote, you are capable. You always have been. No reply, just a stillness so deep it felt like stepping out of a storm into a quiet hallway. At 2 a.m, one last message appeared from my mother. If you do this, you are dead to me. I stared at the line, not because it hurt, but because it did not. I typed, I am sorry you feel that way. And then I placed my phone face down again. For the first time in years, I felt something unfamiliar. Relief. By morning, the group chat was silent. An unnatural, heavy quiet after the chaos of the last few days. I made coffee and sat at my small kitchen table, letting the steam drift upward without rushing myself. For the first time in years, I did not brace for a crisis. I did not wait for a request or a demand. I did not check my phone every few seconds. Instead, I opened my laptop and finished what I had started. I changed passwords. I removed my card from shared accounts. I canceled every payment connected to their names. One by one, every confirmation felt like cutting a thread I had been tangled in for far too long. Each click felt cleaner, lighter, steadier. Later that week, I sat across from Dr. Patel again and told her I felt both lighter and terrified. She smiled gently and said, peace can feel dangerous when chaos is what you are used to. Living calm can feel like stepping into an unfamiliar room, but it is still yours. Her words stayed with me as I walked home. The air felt clearer, like the world had taken one step back to give me space I did not know how to hold yet. That night, Elias came over carrying takeout and quiet understanding. He sat next to me on the couch, not crowding me, just letting his presence be steady. He did not offer solutions or long speeches. He just leaned slightly toward me so our knees touched, grounding me in the moment. I am proud of you, he said. And for the first time, I believed someone meant it. The following weeks did not get louder. They got sharper, clearer. I took walks without my phone buzzing constantly. I cooked dinner and actually tasted it. I read a book without being interrupted by someone else's emergency. I went to bed without fear of waking up to chaos. The quiet no longer felt like abandonment. It felt like freedom. Little things in my life became visible again. Sunlight through my window, the hum of traffic, the softness of my own routines. Even my apartment looked different, without the constant weight of stress filling the corners. I learned something simple but life-changing. Love without respect is not love. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are survival. And choosing yourself is not betrayal. It is the first real step toward peace. Sometimes the grief came back, but it was thin like smoke, not heavy like a storm. It drifted in and drifted out, and I let it pass. I did not try to fix it or explain it away. I simply let myself feel what I had ignored for years. One afternoon, I found myself sitting on the floor, sorting through the last of the receipts, the color-coded ones from all those years. I did not need them anymore. They were evidence of a life I no longer lived. I picked them up one stack at a time and placed them in a box, not with bitterness, but with finality. It was not about forgetting. It was about closing a door I finally had the strength to close. And as the days continued to unfold, I realized something else. I was not empty. I was not alone. I was rebuilding, quietly, slowly, gently, and for the first time in my life, I was doing it for me. As more weeks passed, my life began to settle into a rhythm that felt unfamiliar, but steady, like walking on solid ground after years of shifting sand. I woke up without dread. I stepped into my days without carrying someone else's weight tied around my ankles. The air in my apartment felt different, lighter, almost like it finally belonged to me. I did small things I had been putting off for years. I replaced a lamp bulb that flickered every night. I rearranged the living room so the couch faced the window. I donated clothes I never wore and bought groceries I actually wanted, not the cheapest things I could find to save money for everyone else. I felt myself expanding, quietly, into the spaces I had always left empty for them. One morning, I got an email from the phone carrier confirming that the final shared line had been officially moved out of my name. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen, letting the relief move through me slow and warm. That one simple confirmation felt like the last link of a heavy chain snapping. There were moments when memories tugged at me, moments when I wondered what they were saying about me, what stories they were spinning about my choices. But the difference now was that the wondering did not control me anymore. I could feel the pull, like a faint echo, and then let it go, the same way you release a breath. You realize you do not need to hold. Glenn checked in every now and then, always briefly, always respectfully. He never pried, he just made sure I had what belonged to me and that nothing of mine was left behind. One afternoon, he dropped off a single envelope, no explanation. He just placed it in my hand and said, "Thought you should have this." Inside was a photo of me from years ago. Me smiling at a family barbecue, handing my father a plate. I had not seen the picture before. On the back, written in my mother's handwriting, was the date and nothing else. No message, no note, nothing to bind it to a memory that felt genuine. I stared at it for a long time. Not sad, not angry, just aware. Aware of how long I had been showing up for a family that never truly saw me. I tucked the photo into a drawer, not to forget it, but because it no longer held the same power. It was just a moment from a life I was finally stepping out of. Elias stayed steady through it all. He never pushed me to talk, but when I did, he listened fully. Sometimes we walked around the block in the evening air, not speaking much, just existing side by side in quiet comfort. One night he said, "You are starting to look like yourself again." I asked, or for the first time. He smiled. "For the first time," he said. There was something soft and true in that, something that made my heart settle rather than race. For the first time, I was choosing relationships that did not drain me. My days were no longer measured by crisis. They were measured by the small, honest moments that made me feel alive. Moments I had never let myself have before, because now I was beginning. The shift inside me did not happen all at once. It came quietly, through small choices, gentle ones, patient ones I would have never given myself before. I noticed it first when I woke up one morning and realized my shoulders were not clenched, my jaw was not locked. I felt rested. It startled me, almost like peace was something unfamiliar that needed to be learned. Days moved differently now, slow, in a good way, open, in a way that made room for thought and breath and everything I had pushed to the back of myself for years. I began taking walks before work. Not fast, purposeful walks, but calm, meandering steps, letting my feet go where they wanted. I watched the morning light slide across storefronts and sidewalks, and it felt like a quiet reminder that I had time now. At work, people began to notice the change. My coworkers asked if I had taken a vacation or started a new hobby. I only smiled, because how could I explain that my vacation was simply stepping out of a life that demanded every part of me? My hobby was healing. One evening, I stopped by a small bookstore, a place I used to love before life became a constant emergency. I ran my fingers along the shelves, reading titles slowly, letting myself choose a book simply because I wanted it. That small act filled me with a kind of steady warmth. It felt like reclaiming pieces of myself, one quiet choice at a time. Later that night, Elias came over again. He handed me a bag of groceries. He had picked up hummus, bread, berries, tea. He always showed up with small, thoughtful things, never demanding anything in return. We cooked together, not talking much, the silence easy and unforced. The whole apartment felt gentler with him there. After dinner, we sat on the floor leaning against the couch, my legs stretched out, his shoulder brushing mine lightly. He picked up one of the color-coded receipts I had saved, the stack I still had not decided what to do with. He held it for a moment, then set it back down without pushing a single question. "Do you think you will ever talk to them again?" he asked softly. His tone held no judgment, only curiosity. I thought about it carefully, letting the idea settle before I answered. "Maybe," I said, "but only if they meet me where I am. Not where they expect me to be, and not where I used to stand. That version of me does not exist anymore." Elias nodded like he understood completely, and maybe he did more than anyone else. It felt good, not to defend myself, not to shrink, not to explain. Just to exist as I was. When he left that night, he paused at the door and said, "You deserve a life that feels like yours. I know you are starting to believe that, but one day you will know it fully." After he walked out, I turned off every light except the lamp by the couch. The room was warm and quiet. I sat there feeling the softness of the moment, letting myself breathe deeply. I was not healed yet. I was not finished. But I was no longer lost. I was no longer carrying a life that was not mine. I was building something new, something honest, something steady, something that finally felt like home.